Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Umar, thank you very much for joining and helping on this webinar. And this is the second of the series. You had given us the opportunity to invite all the director ORICs a couple of months back, and we had a day-long session to discuss various options and what is the way forward as far as ORICs and universities are concerned. So thank you so very much. And this webinar will also be helpful to take next step as far as the performance of our ORICs and universities is concerned. I'm very thankful to all colleagues in the universities, Director ORICs and chairpersons of the department. Very warm welcome to all of you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so very much for joining on this 2-3 hour session. First part of the session will be conducted by Omer Ghani, who is a very well-known in bringing the venture capital and creating startups and helping not only PHEC but also Higher Education Commission Islamabad and many other assignments that he has undertaken in the Ministry of Science and Technology. Omer, thank you so very much for your presence. And the first part of the session would be, ladies and gentlemen, related to technology commercialization pathways. And in the next session, we have eminent speakers, motivational speaker Qasim Ali Shah and enablers Saqib Azhar, who are going to talk about the business model as far as e-commerce is concerned. And both of these topics are related to enhance the capacity of our universities and how to focus on better employment opportunities as far as our graduates are concerned. And as we all know that government is committed to improve export opportunities, technology, business opportunities in the country. And at the same time, our universities have a big challenge. And that challenge, along with many others, one of that is related to how fast our graduates can get jobs and what are the possibilities of their skills, competencies, and at the same time, if they have conducted and carried out some good projects, then what is the way forward that they would like to continue to translate that project from very basics to the next level. So probably these different pathways and technology development levels are very important and critical, from lab scale or basic concepts or ideas to bringing it into the proper business plan, business model, or into better design of those devices, components, and what are the possible options in terms of patents and options for startups and technology commercialization. So these topics are going to be covered in these two sessions. And thank you, Omer, once again. And over to you to please get started with your discussion and your presentation. I'm really thankful to all my colleagues in the universities. And this is one of the very important challenge, that how best we can activate ORICs in the country and how we can work together, and also see that what are the success stories and how we can share so that we can have better idea and move forward in a way that our universities can make a good contribution, not only for themselves, but also in the economic development. Over to you, Omer. Thank you so very much, and please get started. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I'm going to share my screen. Please confirm if you can see the screen.
Yes, it's visible, Umar.
Okay. All right. Just a few house rules. As I go through the session, everyone should keep themselves muted, and we will have a Q&A session. The last 10 minutes of the presentation, we will have a 1-hour session on this topic on commercialization pathways and the role of university industry partnerships and the role of intellectual property. So for 40 minutes, we will have a session presentation, and after that, we'll have a 10-minute Q&A. Right. So sitting at HSC, and I'm seeing the amount of focus that there is at the government, at the top government level, in transforming the universities and transforming the role of ORICs. ORICs remain the epicenter of all the efforts that are undergoing currently within HEC and also within PHEC and other institutions which are supporting universities in Pakistan. Why? Because we are living in an age we call knowledge age. In the knowledge age, the role of universities and high schools become extremely important as they replace the traditional inputs into the industry, which were raw materials for economic development. Now the inputs into industry is knowledge. We need to be able to convert that knowledge into services and products that can create revenues. We had a range of webinars in the last couple of weeks within HSC when we were rolling out a series of funds, and some of you were part of those sessions in which we talked about a whole range of things that are happening in Pakistan where universities can get involved. And I'll give you an example of a simple instrument, Lagrangoscope. And I do that because we have some representation from Sialkot, which is one of the top medical equipment manufacturing facilities in Pakistan. And the industry in Sialkot has done fantastically well for Pakistan. But right now we are sitting at a stage where the world is moving in a different direction, and we have not been feeding innovation. Lagrangoscope is an instrument which is developed out of Pakistan for literally $18 and given to Germany, where Germans add a few new tools and technologies to it, including Bluetooth and a monitor, which is roughly $100 and $150 worth of addition, and then sell that instrument back to us at about $1,500. This example that I'm sharing with you is that with simple innovation and knowledge, you can add a lot of value into current products that are being produced and create additional value for yourself and your economy. So how do we use that knowledge? How do we support the whole research innovation chain to ensure that knowledge does not remain in labs? Knowledge is converted into research that's patentable research, commercializable research, and how that research then is converted into a product that's developed and designed, keeping the end user in front and his needs in front. We call this entire process of designing a product with with a human-centric approach. The users who are going to use the product need to be able to provide feedback as you develop the design and the product itself. And then ultimately, how do you commercialize that product? There are many commercialization pathways. So my focus of presentation today is to focus on the last leg of this entire research innovation value chain. Once you have a product, what do you do next? How exactly is that product commercialized? What are the different commercialization pathways? Traditionally, universities and researchers have used licensing agreements, but licensing agreement is not the only instrument you have to commercialize your technology. There are other ways. So we talk about commercialization pathways in today's session. A quote as we move ahead in the presentation: economic success is no longer determined by possession of raw materials or physical prowess, but capacity to generate new knowledge and the ability of the workforce to apply this knowledge successfully. And all the time we're creating new knowledge, we need to be asking ourselves, how will we apply this knowledge? What is the application of this knowledge? Not all knowledge that is created in university is applied knowledge, but the focus today becomes extremely important in bringing that knowledge that has application, that can address socioeconomic challenges, that can address some needs in the industry. Basic research will continue to happen, and you can't stop universities from doing basic research, but there needs to be an increased focus on applied research, commercializable research. And not every research that you do is commercializable and patentable, so we need to differentiate between the two. A lot of issues were pointed out in our previous discussions with ORICs and academia and faculty in terms of what are the incentives that drive the faculty and researchers to do research. Typically, each one of us is a rational consumer or a rational individual who will take decisions that will ultimately help us achieve our objectives. And everyone's objective is to progress in their life, progress in their careers, increase their remuneration, if you would. And in academia, historically, the tenure track, guides the professors in choosing their set of activities amongst all the options that are available to them. And we've seen that the good researchers tend to focus more on publications, yeah, rather than focusing on commercialization of their research. Why? Because they ultimately their promotion is dependent on the number of publications. HSC has now revised the ORIC's policy, and we've also tried to address some of these issues that were previously holding researchers back from getting into commercialization of research and focusing on applied research. So there is effort going on the policy front. We don't want researchers to not benefit from the activities that ultimately bring some revenue to the companies that you work with. That revenue should also flow into the universities, and a portion of that revenue should also flow to the researchers. And how we do that, we'll talk about that. So the role of universities in the knowledge age is to develop effective and close academia industry cooperation. And the ORICs was set up for primarily this very reason, to strengthen the industry academia linkages. And over the years, about 69 ORICs have sprouted from different universities. Some ORICs are mature, they're doing their work as they were supposed to, but a lot of the ORICs currently are lacking. The structure or the networks that they were, or linkages that they were supposed to develop with the industry, and to pursue the activities that currently are being supported under HSC and PHEC and other government organizations which are supporting R&D activities. Innovation, startup of new companies, licensing of university intellectual property, consultancy services to the industry, promotion of effective university-industry relations, having more networking sessions between industry, showcasing what you have, your technology or research, so that industry could see what your universities have, what kind of capabilities your universities have, reaching out to industry to understand their needs, better exploit the results of their knowledge in relationship with industry, and developing evaluation criteria for the performance of universities and ORICs. These are some things that ORICs are required to do. However, in a lot of these cases, there remains a lot of work that needs to be done at the ORIC level to ensure that these things are happening as they're supposed to. We have developed a questionnaire, a detailed questionnaire, which maps the industry needs, which also understands the gaps that currently we see within ORICs at the intellectual property level, at the research, R&D, consultancy level, at the skills level. What kind of skills are being developed by the university in collaboration with industry? Are those skills required by the industry? So, that questionnaire will go a long way in guiding HSC and PHSC and other organizations who tend to work with ORICs and universities to understand what the next set of interventions need to be and how further we can facilitate ORICs to ensure that they continue to increase the pie of commercialization activities within their ambit. Success factors for technology transfer, we feel that unless your factors come together, having a myopic view on one factor is not going to yield the results. So traditional economic theory states that land, labor, capital, and entrepreneur need to come together to produce wealth. In the industrial age, that formula worked, but in the knowledge age, the value of land is not as important. However, in a lot of economies and a lot of societies, we continue to remain fixated with land and brick and mortar. And COVID has created a realization amongst everyone that a lot of the activities that previously we thought we couldn't do if we didn't have space, physical space, land, or the brick and mortar infrastructure, those myths have now been destroyed. And we all understand that technology can enable almost everything. Yes, you still have the need for physical infrastructure. You can't take away that need, but just waiting to have that physical infrastructure before you can start doing the activities that were envisioned under that physical infrastructure is not the right way. So what are the factors that need to come together? You need to have the right talent, the right skills, you need to have the right technology, you need to have the capital, and you need to have the know-how to be able to put all of that together. And the role of academia, business, and government is critical to bringing these factors together for successful value-added technology transfer. So the question is that we have also drafted evaluate you across these factors and your ability to be able to bring these factors together to ensure successful value-added commercialization technology transfer activities are happening within ORIC. Traditional academic roles, we understand what they were. Technology transfer process. This is a very, very important slide. I will stay focused on this slide for a little bit. And I'd like you all of you to also focus on this slide for some time and understand what are the things that we're supposed to do. Perhaps most of you know these things, but are we doing these things in a formal way? Are we following a formal process to ensure that our research reaches the end of the loop that we want to complete? The objective of HEC is, and PHEC is not to continue funding proposals, but to fund those proposals that can ultimately create those products that can generate some commercial revenue, that can generate some jobs, that can address some industrial need, that can go and solve some socioeconomic challenge. Our success is if we fund such solutions, such technologies, and those technologies are able to go to scale and create commercialization revenue, along with your industry partners, and your universities take a share of that revenue, and a share of that revenue flows to that innovator researcher who's contributed. It creates a win-win situation for everyone. In the past, a lot of money has been taken by the government of Pakistan and grants have been given to researchers. And I've seen a large portfolio of technology development fund technologies that have been funded by HEC, but all those products are sitting in a portfolio. No commercial activity or very minimal commercial activity is happening on that portfolio. And today, Pakistan cannot afford to continue to fund research that ultimately does not reach its logical conclusion. So it becomes critically important to understand how do we ensure that those technologies that are being funded by HEC and in which the industry partners are also contributing and ORICs and universities are also contributing your time and resources, how do we take those technologies, those products, and create commercially viable models and generate commercial revenue? So if you look, there are three layers of this technology transfer process. The first layer is the science and technology itself. The starting point for any opportunity in technology transfer and commercialization of R&D is an idea, is a blueprint. So we start with an idea that we have in mind. We do some research. In that research, we try to understand the technological aspects of it. We do complete technology feasibility before we start going into investing further resources in developing a prototype that can ultimately be scaled up. Product development process, usually in industry gets involved at that stage because universities can do the research, can create a functional initial prototype, but industries are better suited in creating industrial grade prototypes. They understand the needs of the end consumers and what kind of product will sell in the market. So their involvement in product development is critical. And world over, product development is an activity that's typically pursued by industry. So we don't expect the universities to start doing all of this activity in-house, and collaboration with industry becomes extremely important at this stage. And finally, once you have an industrial grade prototype, you want to go into serial production and large scale manufacturing, in which a manufacturing partner then goes and does that. And then, their distribution partners take that product and take it to the market. Alongside, while you're developing this technology and going forward with the technology, research, innovation, technology, and product development value chain, you need to also understand the market in which this technology is going to function and start collecting some information on the market itself. And here we do what we call market research. So in the market research, you want to understand what are the existing products, what is your product, how your product is differentiated from the existing products, what kind of size of the market you're dealing with, who are your end consumers, what is their affordability, ability and willingness to consume that product. You need to map all those things. If you're producing a product for which the market does not exist, or you don't have a plan to take your product, how would you take your product and enter that market or reach that market? What will be your go-to-market strategy? If you haven't thought about these things, if you haven't thought about the use cases or the applications of your technology and the size of the market you're dealing with, you might have done all of those things, but you may realize the consumer that you're trying to target may not have the affordability to purchase your unit. So this market knowledge, what your competitors are doing, what's happening in an industry, who's your target audience, what is the affordability, all these things are extremely crucial. And you don't want to spend your energy on the first top layer, develop the whole product, and come to a point where you realize that ultimately, if you go into serial production and manufacturing, you may not be able to distribute that product and earn revenue. So this layer has to be evaluated alongside the technology layer. And finally, to ensure that each stage, at each node of this research, innovation, product development value chain, you need to have sufficient funds available to you. At different stages in this research, innovation value chain, there's a different type of funding that you will typically have access to. At the earlier stage, it is very difficult to engage commercial sources of capital. Venture capital or banks do not fund you at the early stages, which is why it is critical for donors and public sector and government bodies like HSC and PHEC to set up a series of grant funds. And we have done exactly that at the HSC level and the PHEC level, and you have all been very busy in submitting those proposals. But ultimately, when you have a product that's developed into a product that can go into serial production and manufacturing, and you've done your market R&D and the production of that technology is commercially and technologically feasible, then at that particular point in time, it is crucial that you now change your focus from going after grants to going after commercial capital. But to go after commercial capital, you need to have a completely different mindset, and you need to be able to achieve a level we call investment readiness. In commercial investors typically want to see a different set of documents. They want to see a different set of information from you than typically what public sector grant funds like to see in your proposals. And the major gap that I've seen in the activities that are happening within universities and ORICs, you guys understand how to write proposals and get grant funding, but to reach out to the commercial sources of capital, there is a big gap right now. And we at HSC have also designed a program which essentially focuses on ensuring your investment readiness. And this program essentially will provide you hands-on tools to create your business plans with the lens of an investor, to do your financial projections, to do your valuations, whether it's product valuation, company valuation, and to be able to develop a term sheet, terms that you want to offer to your investor, commercial sources of commercial financiers, on how much money you need from them, what are the risks for them, how will you return their money, over what period of time would you return their money, what kind of return are you going to offer. All those things are going to be covered in that investment readiness program that will ensure your investment readiness. So this is a critical three-stage process that each one of you who are involved in developing technology and products and then commercializing them need to ensure as you start dedicating your resources. Idea is you don't want to spend your resources just to find out that you couldn't have commercialized this technology after you have invested your time and resources. If you can have an assessment of the technological and commercial viability and feasibility, and then dedicate your time, then you would save yourself a lot of hassle and time and resources that could have been better spent on those initiatives where there was a commercial angle. So I'm going to show you this slide just to give you a sense of the kind of revenues that you can produce. Knowledge is the new gold, and you are all sitting on that gold. And some universities have been able to exploit that gold, and you see all these numbers are in millions. In certain cases, you have hundreds of millions. In the case of improved hypertext searching, if you look at the valuation, it's 335 million. But Beyond these companies, many other companies have also emerged, and the valuations are now in billions. So the opportunity for you to produce technologies and generate revenue for yourself, for your universities, and for your communities, sky is the limit. Uh, the example of Interloop, a textile company going and doing IPO versus Kareem, doing a trade sale. They did not even go into an IPO. They were able to get a couple of billion versus Interloop, which was only floating in a few million. And that remains one of the largest textile centers. So that gives you a complete comparison of the kind of new emerging technologies and the valuations and the exponential growth opportunities that you have there versus the traditional industries, which are sunset industries. And the ability of those industries to produce wealth and jobs is fairly limited compared to the new technologies that we now have access to. This is a very unique situation we are sitting in. 300 years back, when industrial revolution started, our forefathers or our earlier generations were also sitting at a unique situation where a new revolution was coming, the industrial revolution was coming, and new opportunities were being produced. Today, we have a similar opportunity in this fourth industrial revolution. A lot of new emerging technologies and opportunities are reaching out to us. But if we don't utilize these opportunities, we don't exploit these opportunities, a couple of centuries later, our future generations will be also sitting and wondering that we snoozed through the industrial age and we snoozed through the fourth industrial revolution. We couldn't exploit, we couldn't harness our resources to produce wealth and uplift our communities. And so there is a big responsibility on all of us to be able to do what we need to. There are many challenges we need to overcome to be able to achieve the targets. And one of the major challenges is that the industry and university, they live in a different world. The university is focused on creating knowledge, sometimes knowledge for knowledge's sake, but often, to pass on that knowledge through teaching, through research, dissemination of research, to provide services to industry, to government, to public and private sector, and to contribute towards economic development. Whereas industry uses knowledge and the management of knowledge for profit. They do product R&D, and typically their knowledge and research is confidential with limited public disclosure, as opposed to university where there's complete disclosure, open disclosure of whatever knowledge that is being created for the benefit of others. So blending the university and entrepreneurial research and entrepreneurial cultures requires us to fully understand what is happening on both sides. So if you look at academic, the research priorities are set by the investigators, in our case, principal investigators who are putting the proposals. They define the direction of research priorities. They typically, focus more on grants, publications, patents driven by publications, and they typically want to transfer at early stage because they are not too aware of all the tools that are required for developing technology, maturing technology, and then taking a hands-on role in commercializing that technology. So they tend to transfer that technology very early on. However, if some of those tools are transferred to the research and innovator community in our academia, and they're able to mature that technology, they'd be able to produce more wealth for themselves. Industry, on the other hand, research priorities are set by the management. They're profit-seeking. You have a different type of industry that's emerged. They call themselves social enterprises, which do not only look at profits and maximizing profits for their shareholders, but now they're also looking at two other bottom lines, which is addressing a social impact or an environmental impact. So they look at three bottom lines: profit, social, and environmental bottom line, and try to optimize on these three bottom lines, which becomes a more complex challenge. And there are many such examples. We've seen what Grameen Bank has done. They don't only focus on making money, but also making money in a way that they're addressing some societal and environmental problem. Using the power of business to solve social and environment problem is the new way forward for the business. the old school business management formulas that were given to us in business schools are now being scrapped because that has brought the world in this particular place where there are lots of social disparities. And in that model, we continue to focus on maximizing wealth for the shareholders, but that wealth does not trickle down to the lower stratas in the economy, and that creates issues. And these industries also are not very conscious of the environment while in their pursuit of making profits. They also go and destroy the planet and the environment in which they operate. And the communities that live in that environment, they have to then, pay for that through their health or through their other issues. So industry can have multiple objectives. So profit seeking is definitely one of them. In countries like Pakistan, typically the industry has not evolved, mature to a point where they will take a triple bottom line, but there will still be some which now focus on triple bottom line. Most of the work industries do is proprietary. The patenting that's done, it's all driven by a business decision. If something is commercially viable, industries will go into it. If it's not, they won't. And typically industries like to add value before transferring. They don't want to be connecting the raw materials from the source to the user without adding value. So that's typically the mindset of industries. The academic perspective, when it comes to collaboration between industry and academia, why partner with industry? Application of research so the answer to that is application of research for public good, exposure to industry collaboration, additional source of research funds, build research endowment. If you look at how the MITs, the Harvard, the Stanfords, these universities have a shorter history than the Oxford and the Cambridge, but these universities were able to surpass the Oxford and Cambridge, which were perhaps the leading universities of their time. If you look at the mid 19th century, why? Because the American universities were able to set up their endowment fund structures. These were trusts. These trusts enabled the universities to aggregate the intellectual property that was created within their campuses by the researchers. And that intellectual property, as it was commercialized, it started fetching a lot of revenue for the universities. And that revenue that these endowments were generating through alumni or through IP that was being created and then commercialized was then reinvested back into the communities to support further R&D activities. And over a period of time, these endowments grew to such a large scale that even the Oxford and Cambridge were not able to compete with these large American universities. Ultimately, their model for developing IP and supporting IP and commercialization of IP and creating a formula how once that wealth is generated, how that wealth is distributed between the innovator who came up with that idea, using the university resources, how that wealth was shared with the university, how that wealth was shared with the researcher, and what percentage of that wealth was given to the industry partner. So unless we can create that formula of sharing of wealth, commercialization revenue that is generated through this activity between the university, between the researcher, and between the industry, we would never be able to achieve that success that those American universities have been able to achieve. And if I look across Pakistan, across all universities, I see that majority of the universities are very confused about this IP policy. How do the researchers take a share of the commercialization revenue? That needs to be clarified by the universities, and an IP policy needs to be formalized by these universities. And HSC is going to give guidelines on that. And the questionnaire talks a lot about the current IP policy and practices within the university that will ultimately help us decide the next steps on how we need to ensure that the right IP policy is introduced at the ORIC level and the university level. What is the industry perspective? Why partner with universities? Research institutions are a rich source of new ideas. typically the idle intellectual capital in universities has not been leveraged, and universities can set up their R&D divisions, but it costs to hire a knowledge worker. So they could take that route and do things in-house, and a lot of industries are doing that already. But creating a model of collaboration with universities and leveraging the idle intellectual capital for the purpose of developing new technologies, commercializable technologies, patentable technologies that can then be scaled up by the industry partner, remains a more cost-effective, cheaper method to support research and to license in technology. Industry looks to academic collaboration for early stage technology. Industry, even if it's doing product development, they'd be looking at mature products and looking at further how to add value to it. New technologies and early stage technology, academia remains the best place for that activity. So these are some selling points for the ORICs as we reach out to the industry to strengthen your ties, understanding these perspectives of the industry and the university and trying to bridge that gap becomes critical. How do you begin to bring the two cultures together? You need to have your own employment policy for the faculty that allows you to engage in commercialization activities. Of course, you need to set some boundaries. You can't have complete freedom for faculty. You don't want the faculty to forget about his primary responsibility towards teaching. So that policy needs to highlight policy of intellectual property we talked about, revenue sharing we talked about, and the faculty involvement in new startups, needs to also be thought through. And all the questionnaires will talk about all these things. As you look at the questionnaires I floated, keep this context in mind, where we are trying to ultimately move, and what are we trying to do in terms of bringing the industry and academia together. And the kind of information that you share will help us develop the next set of interventions to be able to bridge that gap. We have the commercialization pathway itself follows a very detailed, a very long drawn process in which you go through an invention, disclosure, and submission, and then ultimately your technology transfer committees, which are currently evaluating your proposals within HSC, will do a technical review. We'll also look at perhaps once your proposal is funded and your products are developed, we look at patent search, market analysis activity, and then we move on to technology transfer, and testing the market and doing proof of concept. The question in the invention evaluation process that we need to ask, the three most important questions that we need to ask, is the technology that you're looking to develop, is it protectable? And protectable, then how? Patent, copyright, on how would you do that? Is it enforceable? What are the current legal issues on infringement of copyright and IP? Is it licensable? If you have the technology ready and patented, then how would you license it? And if you license it, then what would be the licensing terms? There are many different licensing formulas that you could pursue, and a discussion on the licensing terms becomes very important here at this stage now with you all. Evaluation criteria, level of IP protection, related industry R&D activity, inventor reputation, participation, all these things we evaluate as we evaluate a technology for commercializing and patenting and taking it further forward. The market size, competing products, we talked a little bit about that, and then proof of concept and go-to-market strategy and the time to market it will take. Yeah, these are some very important aspects as we decide whether we want to proceed in commercialization. We need to have a clear understanding of all these items. What strategy for technology commercialization do we need to pursue? That needs to also go hand in hand. Intellectual property can be commercialized through an option agreement, through a license agreement, or you could perhaps even spin off a new company. If you're doing these activities, whatever you do, the university is the partner, and industry with whom you are collaborating will also be a partner. So creating a formula that provides equitable wealth distribution between these three key actors, the innovator, the university, and industry, in these agreements is critical. Option agreement, when do you use the option agreement? When your technology is not ready to be licensed and you need funding to further develop that option agreement, to further develop that technology. Typically you enter into an option agreement which give the investor or the funder the option to have an exclusive license on your technology once your technology is ready. So these agreements can take the form of a note or could also take the form of an equity participation with an embedded option. So once there's a technology product ready at that particular point in time, and if you set up a company on a spin off a startup, or you license that technology to the industry, at that particular point in time, the owner of this option will have the right to exercise that option. He would need to meet the criteria to exercise that option in terms of perhaps giving you any additional money if you're moving towards setting up a new company. But he can exercise that option, and that option will give him the rights to then become a partner in that spin-off company, or have the exclusive license on the technology if that technology has reached that stage. This is for those technologies, mind you, which are not ready to be licensed, and you can use these option agreements to fund yourself to go through this activity. Licensing agreement, as you all know, and you've all been engaged with licensing with industry, you have a technology that the industry needs. Industry will pay you a licensing fee. The licensing fee can also take many different formulas. How do you determine what kind of licensing fee? What is the upfront fee? What is the maintenance fee? What is a royalty fee? Whether the license is exclusive, non-exclusive, all these things need to be covered in this agreement. And finally, the startup company formation. What we don't realize is if creating a technology and creating a product is not the same thing as creating a company. So creating a company itself is perhaps as difficult, if not more, as creating a product is. And often we feel that we have created a product that essentially means that we have created a business. That is not correct. Once you've created a product, usually companies, when you look at companies, they don't usually have a single product. They have multiple products. So creating a product does not mean that you have a company. The company typically, is governed by a mission, by a vision, by a team that is constantly working to achieve that vision, and usually pursue activities which are monitored, which will help them increase their revenue. They cannot dedicate their time and effort in activities which is not ultimately helping them achieve that vision. But bringing that team together, bringing that diversity that you require in a company is very, very important. I mean, if you look at companies like Unilever, these companies have emerged over 300 years, 400 years, multi-generation companies that have enabled them to scale to this level. In our case, when we look at our companies in Pakistan, one generation makes money, the other generation destroys that money. And these companies are never able to grow to the scale of the Fortune 500 companies. We are never able to institutionalize our businesses. There's a term that everyone perhaps knows in Pakistan. Most of our companies are state-run companies, which are, the owners themselves run the companies. They don't bring in professional management. They don't bring in systems and processes, and that enable them to attract investors, and that would ultimately enable them to go to global scale. We have failed to achieve that. Some of the companies in Pakistan have done that, and we have seen the results. And companies like Engros and others, we've seen how they've scaled up. But by and large, this concept of how to create a startup remains convoluted within the academic circle. So we need to differentiate between creating a product and creating a company. And we need to identify spin-off companies and startup companies as another way of commercializing your technologies, especially the emerging technologies, the new technologies that you're creating, perhaps the new startups who are focused on those emerging areas would be the end user and demand those technologies. If you don't have those startups being created, or startups would need your technology, you could create your own startup that can ultimately take that technology and go in that particular direction. So on one side, creating technology, and on the other side, creating demand for that technology through these startups is critical to ensure the absorption of this technology and commercialization of this technology. And universities abroad have done this very effectively. Faculty is involved in creating new startups, but however, they don't run those startups. They bring in professional management, they bring in professional systems and processes and governance structures to ensure that everyone is performing the way they should be performing. So these are three broad areas how you could perhaps go and do your technology commercialization. When you move forward with the commercialization, the principal investigator or the inventor who's been working on that technology from research to product development are the single most important step in marketing, because these guys have the understanding of what they're trying to do, what problem they're trying to solve. And they need to be integral part in this entire marketing process. Most of the leads in licensing come from the principal investigator. As they develop this idea, they have within their mind how they want to use their idea, what are the use cases, applications of that technology in different sectors and segments of the industry. And to link with those segments, ultimately it becomes easier for them to be able to sell that concept. Last stage of this presentation, and I'll pause after that and I'll start taking questions because we're nearing our time, is as you develop the licensing agreement, you need to understand the interests of all parties involved. You need to abide by the confidentiality for scientific and IP due diligence. You need to ensure that whenever you share your IP with someone, you sign legal agreements that bind them from disclosing that intellectual property. As you license an agreement, you need to evaluate whether you need to embed an option agreement within the license agreement or not, whether your technology is mature enough, whether your agreement is going to be exclusive, non-exclusive, and then you negotiate on the financial and business and legal terms. Within the license grant, you will evaluate the field of use, the territory, यानी कि किस सेक्टर में आप ये आपकी लाइसेंस जो है will be relevant, किस geography में आपकी जो लाइसेंस है agreement will be relevant, license term, what will be the duration of the license term. We don't want to be stuck in a situation like we are in the automotive sector where we entered into licensing agreement with the Japanese companies, and even today we are sort of hostage to their designs and their technology and paying them a royalty on it. The licensing terms with the Chinese that we're trying to establish under the Chinese Sinopark Technology Transfer Program essentially are more or less up to 5 years, where within 5 years the technology companies in China will come and exploit their technology, will make money, and after 5 years our local industry will be free to use designs and source components from without continuing to pay royalties to those who are transferring the technology. So these considerations are important. In terms of fee, how much upfront fee do you charge? How much royalty do you charge? And what are the milestones if a technology ultimately goes to massive scale and companies are set up on around those technologies? Then how much equity will be vested with the university under their endowments and with the researchers and the principal investigators? These are some important considerations as you finalize the agreements. So I'm going to now pause. We've got about 5 minutes to 11, but we'll take Q&A as many questions are required. Dr. Fazal Khalid, over to you now.
Thank you very much, Omer. We can have a couple of questions to close this first session, and then we'll continue with the second session. Honorable speakers are with us, and any honorable member would like to make comment or ask question, welcome. Kindly introduce yourself and then you can ask if any.
Dr. If I may, I am Sohail Salim, and I'm Managing Office of Research, Innovation and Commercialization of Government College Women University, Sialkot. Should I go ahead, sir?
Please.
Yes, sir. Just a quick comment on this thing. It's an excellent detailed presentation. I think this is something that all the universities, especially who have industries around them or near them, they definitely need it. I think there is a lack of awareness on either side. It is with the university as well, and with the industry as well. I still remember, I think last year, HEC has done a practice of awarding intellectual property awards to organization, to factories around here, and multiple of them, when they show up and they actually claim their due awards in intellectual property, they are from Sialkot. And I was really surprised, and I met all of them. I said, "Okay, why don't you actually discuss with this thing?" We had number of meetings in SCCI. People don't actually share the information that they are actually having some sort of patent with them. They have some copyrights or trademarks. So the typical answer was very amusing, at the same time very sarcastic as well. They said, most of them said, even if we have it in Pakistan, there is no implication as such. Anybody can easily copy my idea and duplicate it. Even when you go to the Middle East market, there as well, you don't have any sort of typical protection unless until you go up to the authorities by yourself and claim it that is my copyright. Please don't do it. So I think the value of the intellectual property is very high in the world, but it is very much less considered in Pakistan. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Omer, you would like to make comment, please?
I think that, so this was a more of a comment, Shoaib, from you than a question. Absolutely, I agree. And in fact, in our presentation, we talked about the gap, the industry academia gap, and the gaps on the industry side are very much there. And just taking a one dimensional approach in building capacity and bridging these gaps on the academia is not going to yield the results. So at HSC, we are embarking on this parallel approach to also reaching out to the industry and to ensure that those gaps are also bridged. As far as intellectual property is concerned, you're absolutely correct. The regime and the enforceability aspect of it is very critical, which is why when you're developing a technology early upfront, you need to ask your questions whether you could protect that technology, what are the risks in protecting that technology, whether you'd be able to enforce and how you'd be able to enforce if you're going to get the IP protection, whether it's going to be a local IP protection or you want to go global. The cost, of course, changes as you go global. So the value in protecting and investing upfront before you embark and dedicate more resources need to also be estimated. What kind of value you would be able to create through that technology commercialization, what kind of market size you are going to target, and all those things. So I will share this presentation that I've given with PHEC, so that you can keep, all of you can keep this presentation in front of you as a guideline as you start developing your commercialization strategies around your portfolio of technologies.
Yeah, can I ask a question?
Yes, please, go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum.
Go ahead, sir, please.
I'm Director ORIC at University of Agriculture, Faisalabad. My team is here. First of all, I of course would like to appreciate excellent presentation from Omer Saab. I have two questions. One is, Omer Saab, generally we had various sessions here at our campus with the lawyers. And the lawyers were of the opinion that the faculty people, they cannot involve in the companies due to the lack of interest or other legal issues. So we raised this issue with the HEC also, that HEC should come up and should facilitate the faculty so that they can create their own faculties, companies. And on the other side, the industry people, they at government level, they must be given some incentives to pour in some money for research or for improving or fine-tuning the technology. So these, I think, are the two major issues which are actually responsible for disconnect between the academia and the industry. Thank you very much.
So that's a very, very important point that you've raised, Zahir Saab and Dr. Zahir, and thank you so much for bringing this topic. We were running out of time, so I couldn't actually talk about this particular issue, but if you look at my slide, there's a lot of thinking that's going on in HEC to differentiate between what are the permitted activities of faculty involved in commercialization and startups, and what are the prohibited activities, what are the best practices internationally, how is faculty differentiating between permitted and prohibited activities. And as I said, I'm going to share this presentation with Dr. Fazal Khalid at PHEC, and this will be shared with all of you. These are guidelines within HEC. We are trying to bring in a change in policy. We're trying to give different policies to the universities. But before we start giving you different policies, guidelines, we are embarking on this data collection process to map what are the challenges, to collect your feedback, and then to use that information in a very systematic, scientific manner to give you a next set of policies and guidelines to allow you to be able to do what other faculty members have been able to do internationally. जी, thank you, sir. So, sir, आपकी बात बिल्कुल सही है, Dr. Javed साहब, ये linkages को strengthen करना है. And my recommendation to all the ORICs and the researchers here is that while there is this whole new vast space of new opportunities being created within the emerging technology sector, अगर हम अपनी इंडस्ट्री की नीड्स को अगर बेहतर समझें, हमारी बहुत सी इंडस्ट्री की नीड्स जो लो हैंगिंग फ्रूट्स हैं, आपकी एकेडमिया जो है इस वक्त उनके साथ मिलकर उनको सॉल्व कर सकती है. एंड ये जो हमारी रिसर्च एक्सरसाइज इस वक्त शुरू हुई है HEC, इसके जो रिजल्ट्स हैं और जो इंडस्ट्री की फीडबैक है, उनके क्या मेजर पेन पॉइंट्स हैं, चैलेंजेस हैं, जहाँ पे उनको R&D सपोर्ट अगर एकेडमिया से मिले तो वो अपनी बिजनेस की बॉटम लाइन, अपने रिजल्ट्स, अपने रेवेन्यू को इम्प्रूव कर सकते हैं. तो हमारे पास जैसे ये इंफॉर्मेशन गैदर होती है, होपफुली इंशाल्लाह इन द नेक्स्ट मंथ आई शुड बी एबल टू collect all of this information from the industry, from the ORICs, and create a complete report on mapping the gaps in these industry academia linkages and where we need to focus and strengthen them. मैं आप सारों से information एक और session हम करेंगे through Dr. Fazal Khalid, जिसमें हम वो सारी knowledge और information आपसे share करेंगे और disseminate करेंगे.
Thank you very much, Omer. Very kind of you that you've been able to spend time for this session.
Hey, Dr. Khalid.
My colleagues. Sorry, Dr. we are running out of time. We have to start the next session and the speaker is ready. Let me thank Omer for giving us time and sharing the knowledge and experience, but particularly with reference to how to strengthen industry academia linkages. And let me just add that PHEC is going to provide a platform, and we have already signed MOU with Lahore Chamber of Commerce and involving other chambers to have a better interaction with universities and identify those projects which have the potential for commercialization. So these are some of the steps we are going to undertake. And Omer, thank you so very much. I know you have other commitments, and let me thank you. And you can please continue with the other activities. And it's great honor for me to invite the speaker, Mr. Saqib Azhar, who is the CEO of Enablers. He's going to talk about the possibilities of commerce and entrepreneurship. It's another dimension that how our universities can engage the students and what are the new developments happening in the world. And as we were talking about, that the universities can create knowledge, but at the same time, universities can also be very helpful in creating employment opportunities. And if the employment opportunities of the graduates of a university can be increased, this is one of the big indicators as far as the ranking of the university is concerned. And it can also be very useful for the country and also from the wealth point of view. So these are the kind of skill sets, and we have to see that the gaps, how these can be bridged by mapping and seeing that what are the best possible opportunities available in the market, in the organization, in the industry, and in the different economic sector, and how our universities can align their program and the kind of skill sets which are needed for our graduates, so their employability can be enhanced. At the same time, the learning outcome are met as far as part of the degree program. So it's great honor for me to welcome Saqib Azhar Saab. Thank you very much for joining in this webinar. And we have already signed MOU with Enablers, and the purpose is that how we have to engage our universities and particularly ORICs, not only to work for technology development, but also to see that what are the new opportunities available in the new context of digital revolution, online activities, and e-commerce, e-business, e-learning, smart learning. So from that perspective, I think universities can be fully engaged as active partner, and this is our future plan, that we are going to bring the important success stories and the companies and their CEOs who have contributed and are contributing in a best possible way in the country, and engaging the youth of our country for the employment, and giving them the kind of experience and opportunities for their career, and learning about online possibilities of e-commerce. In Pakistan, if we look at from the traditional mode, commerce colleges are playing very important role, but I think there is a need to redefine their position and see that what is their vision, which is aligned in line with the modern developments happening in the world. So great honor to present and request Mr. Saqib Azhar to give his talk. Thank you very much. Saqib Saab, over to you, please.
Ji, Assalamu alaikum. Dr. Saab, thank you very much for inviting me. It's such an honor to be here and share our experience and achievements and how we can help the country further, inshallah. So myself, my name is Saqib, as it says. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Enablers. I spent 15 years in England and moved back to Pakistan in 2018 with the aim to enable the people of Pakistan via e-commerce and using international channels like Amazon. Because what we felt is, because we were successful sellers on Amazon, which is the world's largest market from last 10 years. So we decided to share our experience and the business knowledge and secrets, whatever we have built our empires with. So why not we share with the people of Pakistan? So we came in 2018, and since then we came in with the mission to create 2 lakh e-commerce businesses. With the support of those businesses, we will achieve 2 million jobs in e-commerce industry, because what we feel is that the world is in 2026. After 6 years from now onwards, almost 65 to 70% of the businesses will go to digital. So we need to start preparing ourselves. Rather, we just wait for 2026 and say the world is now shifting towards. So this is the time actually when we need to get ourselves ready. And if we just do some comparison, what we have achieved since then. So we opened 11 offices in Pakistan, where we are physically available for the people wherever they need any support on international e-commerce, local e-commerce, which we are supporting throughout. And since then, last 2 years, our students who have actually been taking trainings and mentorship from us has generated $22.2 million after taking sessions from us and since last 2 years. And we have also tracked them that which city has achieved how much. So we see that overseas is hitting the target, which is 14%, and Lahore is on the top right now in Pakistan, where 13% of the people have generated that much money from $22.2 million. So our aim is to hit this to $50 million by the end of the year, and then next year we should be hitting more than $100 million. So we continue to add revenue in Pakistan economy, because these money which people are generating are actually bringing this back to Pakistan via foreign income, because they are selling their products, they are offering their services to international markets. So that's the aim, and inshallah we'll continue to add more into it. What we have achieved since then, we have collaborated with many institutes and many companies and other relevant people who can support us to get this get this mission into more rapid level. So as we are talking to the more universities and colleges here, so we collaborated with universities like Indus University in Karachi, UMT in Lahore. We have also collaborated on a few things in LUMS, where we become the part of their incubator. We have also collaborated with University of Sialkot, Zabest in Islamabad, and so onwards. So we also collaborated with other industries as well. The aim is to help students who are actually studying, for example, 4 years degree, 2 years masters, and then after that they come out with no experience. So they come out. The challenge right now, they come out with no experience and looking for an internship, which in the market they usually get 10,000, 20,000, 30,000 maximum, and then after a few years they get like 1 lakh, 2 lakhs, and so onwards. So what our aim is that yes, degree should be done and they should be doing the study, but while they're doing study, they should be having a mindset of passive income and how they can generate passive income with the passive freelancing things which we have done from the last 2 years, such as offering their services to the largest marketplaces like Amazon, being as a seller if they can be able to secure an investment. Because what we do is we do two types of things. We have two types of audience. One is who can afford it, who can do the business of e-commerce in international market. And the second audience is who does not have money to do the business, like students. So who can learn the skills and offer their skills services to the people who have money. And we collaborate with these two people and then help them towards to run the business. So on one side, person invests the money. The second side, person invests the skills because he does not have money. And then we connect with these two people. And hence we are collaborating with students in the universities that why not you earn the skills and then offer your services to our platform, which is the Pakistani biggest platform in e-commerce with the name of e-commerce by enablers. And wherever the name of e-commerce comes, we are there. And the aim is that wherever the name of Pakistan comes, the e-commerce name should be there that the people can be able to hire. So our aim is that we produce quality content, quality people who work under the supervision of successful sellers, rather they just will work under the trainer. So that's what the aim is. And then if we look at the scope of it, maybe before we look at scope, we have almost 500,000 people have joined us since last 2 years. United Nations has selected us. Amazon has collaborated with us. We've trained more than 5,000 e-commerce experts, created thousands of success stories who used to do something else, but now they are successful e-commerce experts. We generated $22.2 million from last 2 years. I mean, what is the opportunity? Let's just quickly look at. We're talking about the opportunity on Amazon, which is the world's largest marketplace. We encourage people to either sell on it or either offer your services there. If you look at where we are standing, in 2019, we are standing here. Amazon has hit $320 billion, $320 billion of sale. That's what they have generated. And then by the end of 2020, the aim is they will be achieving $450 billion. That's what they will be achieving. So potential is there. But what does this mean? This means that people are buying out of every every $2 spent, $1.65 is being spent on Amazon in US. Even if we talk about the opportunities for the students, that there are almost 3,000 people coming every day on Amazon as a seller, which means 12 lakh, 1.2 million people are coming per year as a new seller, new businesses. And actually, it's just a new. What about the previous? So there are millions of sellers which can be used to offer their services to the people who can earn these type of skills. I mean, if you look at in 2023, after 3 years, the prediction is consumer will buy 3.8 trillion worth of products online every year and more than 1 trillion worth of products on Amazon every year. So the trend is really increasing. After the COVID, the world has almost changed. The people are now mainly focusing more in online, rather they're going physically on the stores and all that. So this is what we are talking. They have 3 billion, more than 3 billion products, but let's just quickly see how much Amazon sales are per day. They make $4.2 billion sales in 2019 per day. $4.2 billion. And Pakistan export per year is $24 billion, which means 5 days of 5 to 6 days worth of sale is equivalent to Pakistan 1 year export. So the model is that how we can also increase our export is when the people will be sending inventory stuff from here to US and all that, it is an export because we will be storing our inventory to their countries. And then when the inventory gets sold, we bring back the money here in Pakistan being as a foreign income. So this is what the aim is, which we are mainly encouraging. How many people are coming per day if we talk about this? Which is almost 59.2 million people per day are coming into the peak season, which is Cyber Monday, Prime Day, same like any of the sales happens in Pakistan. But if we talk about there, we're talking about like 59.2 million people are coming per day. How much Amazon sells nearly, which is equal, I mean, how much Amazon sales per day, which was obviously before we talked about, it was a peak day, but if we talk about as an average, how many units they sell per day, which is 306 items per second, 306 items per second. While I'm talking to you, they must have sold thousands of units. That's how the traffic and the sale is. So this is the potential which we are talking. I mean, if we talk about this international biggest giants platform, we're seeing they are at the war with everyone. Means whatever you talk, they have that. So this is something we need to look at. And this is what I was explaining, that Pakistani export is 24.77 billion in 1 year, whereas Amazon.com itself has a $4.2 billion per day in peak season. This is what we are talking. And that's what we are encouraging, that if you cannot afford it, then you can potentially be able to offer your services to the people. I mean, how big is Amazon? We're talking 197 million monthly website, 100 million Prime members who are actually giving their monthly fees. Out of every $2, $1 has been spent in online. This has been increased after COVID. It has gone to 1.5. So $1.5 has been spent after every $2 has been spent online in the US. $64 billion sales has been generated all across on Amazon. I mean, we also, what we see is for the students. For students, what we see, if there are different types of model on Amazon. Like Amazon FBA wholesale means if you do not have money, you can actually be able to offer existing brand selling. If you have money, you can sell your brand, drop shipping, wholesale, eBay, how you can become a VA, and so many other things which potentially can be done. And what we do for the universities is we give them free access to this video series, which means that people who cannot afford it, which I assume students are dependent to their parents, dependent to their other people. So what we do is for the universities, wherever we collaborate, we give them free access to this, which is worth of 28,000 rupees. So we give them free. So the universities which we have collaborated, for example, University of Sialkot or University of Zabas University, Islamabad. So we will be giving free access to these EVS, which is called as enabling video series. But the question may be in your mind that how much money actually these guys are making. So what we did is we also did calculation based on the numbers which we have given. After watching these free video series which we provide, which gives the knowledge that how you can potentially offer your services to international e-commerce like eBay sellers, Amazon sellers, and so many other things which potentially, like the RAS as well, we cover local market as well. How you can be a freelancer. So these type of things, what we do is we provide this in video series, and then once we track them, we see 10% of people are generating $1,200 plus per month. 13% of people are making $800 plus per month. 17% of people are making $400 plus per month. 60% of people are not doing anything, but they are learning, still learning. So this is how we have tracked it. Like the people who are seeing these free videos from our students, like from the university students, are making this one. So what can happen is this will actually be able to create a mindset of making a passive income while they are studying. Rather, they just get the money from their parents, just get the support from the necessary person who are being their dependent to. So this is the culture which we wanted to create in Pakistan, where the people start thinking about while they're studying. So if he is 15 years, 16 years, 17, 18, and so onwards, they must not wait for their education to be finished. They must start this where the world is going to be trending. Hence, our plan is to make this e-commerce hub. So this is what we feel is the students who are right now in this field, they can pick up quickly as compared to any other person who is not into this field. And on the other side, in terms of getting work from international markets, we have created so many platforms for them. We have created enablers marketplace where the people are coming. We have created approved freelancer as well. If they pass their assessment, we publish them on our website, where the 58,000 people are coming every month to hire the people on enablers.org/VA. 58,000 people comes to hire those people who have learned these skills and earned it, because we are marketing this all across Pakistan and as well as internationally. So these people can get hired. So we are creating employment opportunities for them rather than just saying, learn it and then find the people on their own. We have the largest group called e-commerce by enablers, where almost 250K plus people all across Pakistan, overseas Pakistanis. We're connecting overseas Pakistani with local Pakistanis because they can be able to create legal things quicker than in Pakistan. So hence, this is the aim, where actually we feel that the people can take the advantage of this huge opportunity which is waiting for the people of Pakistan to grab it. This is what we have done in the last 2 years, where we managed to do whatever we can for the people. And this audience is very relevant that I've been invited to, because what I always wanted is the people who are in the universities should learn this system. What will happen maximum, they may not end up getting the work, but they're not paying for anything, right? So they are getting a free video series from us. These people are earning after getting free videos from us. So they don't have to pay anything. And we could potentially be able to arrange seminars in your universities to create awareness and explain the whole system to them, that how this whole science works. And then if they are interested, which I assume they will be, they can be able to do, especially for the females who are sometimes they are not willing to go out of home due to some reasons. So they can learn these videos. They can learn and understand. If they have questions, not just like they just watch videos. If they have questions, they post in this group, e-commerce by enablers. And what the beauty of this group is, if anyone writes a question into this, we answer in 60 seconds. We have the task force who attack on any question. So if you ask any question, you will get an answer in 60 seconds. Any technical questions. There are our team of people. There are people who are from all across Pakistan supporting this help culture system, enabling mindset that if I'm successful, I'll help you to get success. So this is how it works. And as a high level, which I kind of explain what we have achieved and what I feel that where the Pakistan needs to go towards by using this huge scope of e-commerce, not like before, but after COVID, it has changed and the world has changed, and we need to be changed as well, the way things are going towards. So inshallah, our missions will continue to grow, and we'll see that how we can more mobilize this movement of e-commerce awareness than e-commerce, making passive income by e-commerce by using these channels. And we will continue to support no matter what, if they are student or not, as long as they ask the question. So if there are any question, I'm happy to answer. Otherwise, this is it.
Saqib, if I may, with the permission of Dr. Fazal Saab.
Thank you, and welcome for questions, Saqib. Thank you so very much for quick intro, and this is a very big opportunity and platform, and we will have extended session on this, and the purpose is just to have introduction and bring our universities on board, and then continue with follow-up programs and activities. Ji sir, over to you, please, quickly. Question quick.
Yes, sir. So here begins from Chalkot, sir. Very quick comment and a very quick question, Saqib. Thank you so much for the presentation. We are ranked 10 when it comes to business climate improvers. Recently, last year, we improved 28 points, and now we are ranked 108 as compared to the previously 136 when it comes to ease of doing business. You know, where we struggle a lot. Doctor, this is something very important for you to support as well. We struggle when it comes to enforce contracts, and we are ranked 156 when it comes to enforcing the contracts. And it takes approximately 1,071 days to solve a commercial dispute. You're very right in saying that. I've worked in Middle East, I've been in States, that they flourish business, they start new business with extreme ease. But the potential we have in Pakistan, I can bet on this thing, Saqib, that if you and people like you, people like Dr. Fazal can support the government in making enabling policies, it will be huge. Still, we are struggling to have the reputed gateways. Saqib, we have 9,000 students in GC Women University, Sialkot, all females. I invite you to join us, to support us. I just have one quick question. Have you done any policy contributions to the government, and the data you were sharing, the percentage of data you shared, where you actually got it from? Thank you.
This is our students' data, because the people who joined us privately, or the people who has got access to us, then we have a separate team who track them. So we just don't say that take the training and go out. We just say that we will not leave you until you're successful. So this data is us. We have not shared with anyone yet, but this is the forum of the, this is the point of sharing to the people and showing that this is what we're doing and tracking. We are doing seminars all across Pakistan. Just if you search for enablers, then you will see lots of people, thousands of people joining us. We are sharing, but we have not been officially shared with the government yet.
Thank you very much. Any other comment, quick comment before we move on to the next part of the...
I would like to ask a question from Mr. Saqib.
Sir, welcome.
Sir, I would like to know that what is the procedure, because I am from GC University, Faisalabad. I would like to know what is the procedure to get your free sessions. You said that you are already having some MOUs or some agreement with some universities. So if we would like to have some agreement, what is the process?
You need to email to support@enablers.org, or you can email me directly as well, which is Saqib, SAQIB@enablers.org, where you can be able to request us to come in your university and then sign an MOU. And then we have the standard template, which we are signing up with all the universities so far. We can share if that works, then we can formally sign together.
Perfect. Thank you.
But also welcome to...
I just want to have a very short question, Dr. Fazal, if you allow me.
डॉक्टर साहब आपका कनेक्शन जो प्रॉब्लम है, वेरी क्विकली आप बात कर लीजिए. थैंक यू. Let me just to add that regarding MOUs, you are welcome to contact Saqib. Of course, he has explained, but PHEC has also signed MOU to facilitate our universities. So keep us in the loop, and if there is any help you need from PHEC, will be very happy. And the purpose is that how our universities can move to the next level on digital platform with e-commerce, e-business, e-education, so that we can provide good opportunity to our students, so that by the time they graduate, they should have additional to move on and see if they can come up with startups, business plans, and also get on with the opportunities available at the e-commerce. Thank you. I think because of the time shortage, we will continue on this. Saqib, let me thank you for joining in this program. And inshallah, we'll continue our interaction and program and engaging the universities and colleges in particular to provide them this opportunity. And certainly you're doing a good job creating employment opportunity, which is one of the big agenda as far as the government is concerned. So we have to see that how our universities and PHEC and the success story like Enabler can work together and create opportunities for business and employment for the youth of the country. So very much, Saqib.
Thank you very much for inviting.
It's a great honor for me to welcome now Qasim Ali Shah sahab. Sir, thank you very much. Need no introduction, but Qasim Ali Shah Foundation and PHEC has signed MOU, and there are many programs and activities that we are engaged. And the purpose is to create again a platform and opportunity for the universities for leadership, motivation, and we get all the inspiration from the YouTube and the material and the discussion and the topic that Shah Sahab has been contributing in the country and at the national and international level. So thank you very much for joining on this program, and over to you, please. Thank you. ये माइक प्लीज चेक कर लीजिए. साजिद प्लीज कनेक्टिविटी चेक कर लीजिए.
जी अस्सलाम वालेकुम जी, मैं उम्मीद करता हूँ आप सब खैरोफियत से होंगे और बिलखसूस शुक्रिया डॉक्टर साहब आपका कि आपने मुमकिन बनाया कि मैं इनसे चंद लम्हे बातचीत कर सकूंगा. मैं एक न्यूज़ आपके साथ शेयर करने लगा हूँ. ये स्टार्टअप पाकिस्तान की न्यूज़ है और इसके स्टैट्स और डाटा जो सारा मेरे पास आ रहा है मैं सब तक पहुंचा दूंगा PHEC के जरिए. न्यूज़ ये कि पाकिस्तान अर्नड 160 मिलियन प्लस फ्रॉम IT एक्सपोर्ट इन जुलाई 2020 और आप सबकी इत्तला के लिए है कि ये एक बड़ी मिकदार है जो पहले से 40.90% पहले से बढ़ा है. और पाकिस्तान में फ्रीलांसिंग और ई कॉमर्स इस तरह की तमाम चीज़ें पहले से बढ़ी हैं. मेरे ज़माने में आज से 20-22 साल पहले जब हम यूनिवर्सिटी में थे, एक स्टूडेंट के तौर पे हमारे पास अर्निंग का सोर्स और अपने आप को सपोर्ट करने का जो सोर्स था वो ट्यूशन्स था. हम यूनिवर्सिटी से निकलते थे, 2 ट्यूशन्स पढ़ाते थे और ट्यूशन्स पढ़ा के अपने अखराजात को पूरा कर लेते थे. आज ज़माना बदल रहा है और हमारे यंगस्टर्स जो हैं, जो बच्चे हैं, उनके पास बेशुमार अपॉर्चुनिटीज़ हैं जिनको वो टैप कर सकते हैं. सिर्फ लैक ऑफ इंफॉर्मेशन की वजह से या स्किल्स की कमी की वजह से वो नहीं जाते. ये भी अर्ज कर दूं, हर बंदा नहीं पढ़ा सकता, इवन हर बंदा ट्यूशन नहीं पढ़ा सकता. बड़े बड़े काबिल लोग जिनकी डिग्रीज बड़ी अच्छी हैं, उनकी प्रेजेंटेशन और कम्युनिकेशन स्किल्स अच्छी नहीं होती. बाज़ को कन्विंस करना नहीं आता, बाज़ को लेसन प्लान करना नहीं आता. लेकिन गुड लक ये है कि अगर कोई भी शख्स वो अपनी IT की और ये सारी जो मॉडर्न स्किल्स आ रही हैं कॉमर्स की, इनको बढ़ाता है तो अर्न कर सकता है. आप सबकी छोटी सी असाइनमेंट है, अगर आपके पास इस वक्त गूगल है और बिलखसूस मोबाइल पे गूगल है तो आप अपना गूगल निकाल लीजिएगा. गूगल सर्च, जितने मुझे सुन रहे हैं सब लोग ये गूगल सर्च पे चले जाएं जरा प्लीज. और गूगल सर्च पे जाने के बाद आप सब जो हैं वो एक, मैं स्पेलिंग बोलूंगा, आपने गूगल सर्च पे लिखने हैं. मैं आपके साथ एक छोटा सा केस स्टडी डिस्कस करने लगा हूँ. आपने लिखना है CHILTN, चिल्टन प्योर. इट्स चिल्टन प्योर. आप अगर गूगल पे चिल्टन प्योर लिखते हैं और सर्च पे जाने के बाद इसको प्रेस करते हैं तो एक वेबसाइट खुल जाएगी. ये वेबसाइट जो आपके सामने खुली है चिल्टन प्योर की, ये एक ई शॉप है, यानी आप इसको आप डिजिटल शॉप कह सकते हैं वेबसाइट की शक्ल में. इस डिजिटल वेबसाइट पे पर डे ट्रैफिक कितनी है, कितने ऑर्डर प्लेस्ड होते हैं, ये मैं आपको इसके स्टैट्स बाद में बताता हूँ. लेकिन आपकी इंफॉर्मेशन के लिए, ये बच्चा जो इस ई शॉप को रन कर रहा है और इस सारे ई बिजनेस को देख रहा है, इसकी एजुकेशन BS कंप्यूटर साइंस है. ये कोयटा से पढ़ा है और इसकी उम्र को 26 साल है, 26-27 साल की इसकी उम्र है. इसने कभी कोई जॉब नहीं की. ये आगाज से ही अपनी स्किल्स के जरिए ई कॉमर्स की तरफ काम कर रहा है और इस वक्त एक ई शॉप को जिसका नाम चिल्टन प्योर है उसको चला रहा है. इसकी मंथली अर्निंग, ये बड़ी इंपॉर्टेंट चीज है, इसकी मंथली अर्निंग तमाम टैक्सेस पे करके 4 मिलियन पर मंथ है, और ये पाकिस्तान में है, इसके प्रोडक्ट्स बाहर नहीं जाते, ये पाकिस्तान में अपने प्रोडक्ट्स को बेच के, सेल करके और दुनिया तक पहुंचा देता है। आप अंदाजा लगाएं कि एक पाकिस्तान में ई कॉमर्स और ई शॉप अगर मैंने आपके सामने रखी है, जिस शॉप में कोई छोटा नहीं है, जिसमें सुबह डस्टिंग नहीं करनी पड़ती, जिसको एलडीए इंक्रोचमेंट नहीं पड़ती, जिसको क्या लीजिए वासा का बिल नहीं देना पड़ता, जिसका एक इंटरनेट का कनेक्शन है और एक छोटी सी टीम है जो इस वेबसाइट को मैनेज करती है, और इसका काम, इसका प्रोडक्ट वो दुनिया तक चला जाता है। मैं दूसरी एक मिसाल, जिसके लिए गूगल नहीं आपको करना पड़ेगा, मैं चाहूंगा वो भी शेयर करूं। पाकिस्तान में जो कॉस्मेटिक है, कॉस्मेटिक का जो सबसे बड़ा इंपोर्टर और सबसे बड़ा ब्रांड है वो रिवाज यूके है। रिवाज यूके उन्होंने अपने नाम के साथ लगाया यूके। रिवाज यूके ये हमें बताते हैं कि पेंडेमिक में इनकी जो सेल है वो 40% सेल्स बढ़ गई, जबकि दुकानें बंद थी, प्लाजास बंद थे, मॉल्स बंद थे, लेकिन 40% इनकी सेल बढ़ गई। मेरा एक पर्सनल, एक जो कई बिजनेसेस मेरे भी हैं, ये बड़ा क्वेश्चन आता है कि शाह साहब सिर्फ तकरीरें करते हैं, तो सिर्फ तकरीर नहीं करते, वो अवामी तौर पे लोगों तक बात चली जाती है। मेरे 4-5 मेरे पास प्रोजेक्ट्स हैं, उसमें से एक प्रोजेक्ट पब्लिकेशन का सेक्शन है जो प्रॉपर उर्दू बाजार में बुक्स पब्लिश करता है, उसमें मेरी किताबें भी हैं और बाकी लोगों की किताबें भी हैं। यानी हम कोई खुलासा या दरसी टेक्स्ट पेपर नहीं प्रिंट करते, हम प्रॉपर प्रोड्यूस किताबें जो कह लीजिए कंटेंट अखबारों में छपा है हमारा, और सारी चीजें उनको हम प्रिंट करते हैं। पेंडेमिक में हमारी सेल जो थी ई शॉप्स की वजह से 4 टाइम बढ़ गई, यानी जो सेल अगर एक होती थी वो 4 गुना होने लग पड़ी। और उसकी वजह भी ये थी कि दुकानें बंद थी, शटर्स गिरे हुए थे, लेकिन ई शॉप, फेसबुक की शॉप, एक ऐप की शॉप, एक वेबसाइट की शॉप, वो 100% पॉसिबल थी। मैं इस सारी गुफ्तगू से बताना ये चाहूंगा कि जो हमारी सारी यंग जनरेशन है, जिनको हम डिग्रीज दे रहे हैं, जिनको हम काबिल बना रहे हैं और जिनको हम इतनी स्किल्स यूनिवर्सिटी से देते हैं, हमें इन्हें फ्रीलांसिंग भी सिखानी चाहिए, हमें ई कॉमर्स भी सिखानी चाहिए, और हमें उन्हें बताना चाहिए कि ये जो नया जमाना आ रहा है इसमें सारी दुनिया बदल चुकी है। मेरा बेटा 8th क्लास में है, और चंद दिन पहले जब ये पेंडेमिक चल रहा था तो मेरे ऑफिस में कोई एक ऑफिसर, सिविल सर्वेंट मुझे मिलने आए। मेरा बेटा कुछ दिन मेरे दफ्तर आ जाता है, तो मैंने कहा कि मैं आपको चाचू से मिलवाता हूँ, आप आइए जरा मिलिए। तो मेरे उस दोस्त ने मेरे बेटे से पूछा कि बेटे छुट्टियों का काम कर लिया है? उसने कहा जी अंकल मैंने कर लिया है। उसने अगला क्वेश्चन किया आजकल क्या कर रहे हो? मेरे बेटे ने आगे से जवाब दिया कि मैं प्रोडक्ट हंटिंग कर रहा हूँ अमेरिका की मार्केट में। उसने कहा व्हाट्स योर एज? उसने कहा 13.5 साल। उसने कहा स्कूल नेम? उसने कहा क्रेसेंट। उसने कहा क्लास? उसने कहा 8th ग्रेड में हूँ। उसने कहा ये कुछ जो तुमने बोला ये मुझे नहीं पता, मैं पढ़ा लिखा बंदा हूँ और मैं सिविल सर्वेंट हूँ, मेरी एक डिग्री जो है वो बाहर से भी है, ये तुमने बोला क्या है? उसने कहा जी मैं ई कॉमर्स में वर्चुअल असिस्टेंट का सैटरडे बेस्ड एक कोर्स कर रहा हूँ। ये जो नया जमाना आ गया इसमें दुनिया टोटली चेंज हो चुकी है। और मैं पिछले 10 साल से यूट्यूब पे मौजूद हूँ। हमारा जो स्टैट्स हैं व्यूड होने के, वो पर मंथ जो हैं आप अंदाजा लगाइए वो 32-35 मिलियन व्यूड है। अब आपका कंटेंट, आपकी नॉलेज, आपका इल्म अगर इस डिजिटल वर्ल्ड पे मौजूद नहीं है तो आप मर चुके हैं। बुल्ले शाह कहता था जी वो गोर पिया कोई और, असी मरना नहीं गोर पिया कोई और। आज मैं समझता हूं कि जो गूगल पे नहीं है, जो यूट्यूब पे नहीं है, जो ई शक्ल में, डिजिटल शक्ल में मौजूद नहीं है, वो गोर में पड़ा हुआ है। सो आप सब क्योंकि यूनिवर्सिटीज में आप सर्व कर रहे हैं, पढ़ा रहे हैं, और आपके पास अल्लाह ताला ने एक इख्तियार दिया हुआ है, मैं समझता हूं कि किसी खैर की चीज की अवेयरनेस देना भी बहुत बड़ी नेकी है। हमें पाकिस्तान को शदीद जरूरत है कि हम अपने बिजनेस केस स्टडीज को पढ़ाएं। हमें शदीद जरूरत है कि जितनी इज्जत हम एक ब्यूरोक्रेट को देते हैं, जज को देते हैं, जर्नैल को देते हैं, बिजनेसमैन को भी दें। एक छोटी सी मिसाल लीजिएगा, एक बिजनेस यूनिट की बात करूंगा। एक टेक्सटाइल यूनिट है, उसका नाम यूएस अपैरल है। यूएस अपैरल में 26,500 बंदे काम करते हैं। 26,500 बंदों को रोजगार देने वाला कोई छोटा बंदा नहीं हो सकता, उसे भी हमें हीरो मानना चाहिए। हमारा चैलेंज ये है कि हम हीरो एक सीएसएस का इम्तिहान पास करने वाले को मानते हैं, पीएचडी करने वाले को भी मानते हैं, और कोई शक नहीं वो हीरोज है, लेकिन उनसे ज्यादा बड़ा हीरो वो है जो कोई कारोबार करता है और कारोबार करके कईयों को रोजगार फराहम कर देता है। आपका बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया जी, ये मेरी मुख्तसर सी स्पीच थी। कोई इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन आप मुझसे कर सकते हैं?
Thank you so very much, Shah Sahab. Very kind of you, and highlighting the important success stories. Any member who would like to make comment, welcome, or question, please. अगर नहीं है तो मेरा ख्याल है कि बिकॉज ऑफ द शॉर्टेज ऑफ टाइम इसको कंक्लूड करते हैं। सर आपने बड़ी अच्छी बात
डॉक्टर खालिद साहब, मैं ये बहुत अच्छी प्रेजेंटेशंस हैं पहले भी और ये भी, लेकिन मैं जो हमारे ऑरिक की जो एग्जिस्टिंग कंडीशंस है ना, वो ये है कि क्या वो एज ऑर्गेनाइजेशन एग्जिस्ट करते हैं और उसमें तो रैपिड जो रिशफलिंग होती है, जब वो जो खास तौर पे पब्लिक सेक्टर की यूनिवर्सिटीज के हैं, वो एज ए उनको दर्जा एज ऑर्गेनाइजेशन जब तक नहीं मिलता, वो लोगों के साथ एमओयू कैसे साइन करेंगे। ये इस तरह के इश्यूज जो हमारे ऑरिक के इश्यूज हैं, इनको मैं बताना चाहता हूँ कि ऑरिक स्ट्रेंथनिंग जो है ना, ये बहुत जरूरी है। ये तो जहाँ पे हम खड़े हैं यहाँ से हम बड़ी अच्छी टेक ऑफ कर सकते हैं, लेकिन हमारे ऑरिक्स जो हैं दे आर ऑन वेरी वीक फुटेज ड्यू टू मैनी रीजंस, you know all those reasons.
Thank you very much, sir, and that's why we are having this meeting and webinar and invited all the director ORIC and chairpersons of the department. And let me conclude, this was a very good session. Shah Sahab, thank you very much for highlighting the importance of freelancing, and virtual space is very important. अभी तक हम physical space में थे, अब जो next dimension है वो virtual, इसमें internet of everything, e-commerce, e-learning. We have to move in that platform and in a best possible way, and also see that our universities can contribute. Thank you so very much. And Saqib Sahab, thank you very much. Aapne highlight importance of e-commerce and the business opportunities that are available, and how our universities can engage and sign and be part of this. हमने जो बात की industry linkages and how to commercialize technology and the research carried out and what could be the pathways in which we can translate into patents and products and softwares so that it can be useful for our society. And this is the need of the hour. Employment opportunities, exports opportunities, creating wealth, and then as the backup coming from the universities where the knowledge is created, I think it would be a good opportunity for all of us and all the stakeholders to work together for the national development. Shah Sahab, once again, thank you so very much. Saqib, thank you very much, and Omer, and thank you all for your presence. May God bless you. Allah Hafiz.